Are you ready to raise a glass and explore the fascinating world of whiskey? Let's count down the top 10 most famous whiskey drinkers in history. Number 10. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, a name synonymous with the golden age of Hollywood, was more than just a legendary actor. He was a passionate whiskey lover. Known for his roles in iconic films like Gone with the Wind, Gable's affinity for whiskey was as celebrated as his on-screen performances. In fact, Gable was ahead of his time in the celebrity endorsement game. During the mid-70s, he became one of the first celebrities to endorse Jim Beam whiskey, paving the way for the countless celebrity endorsements we see today. His association with Jim Beam was a testament to his genuine love for the spirit. But Gable's whiskey devotion didn't stop at endorsements. He was known for his mischievous on-set pranks, particularly involving whiskey. One of his favorite tricks was to swap non-alcoholic drinks with whiskey, much to the surprise of his fellow actors. Number 9. Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami, the renowned Japanese author behind best-selling novels like The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle and 1Q84, is not just a master of storytelling. He's also a connoisseur of whiskey, particularly the distinctive spirits of his homeland. Murakami once beautifully stated, quote, "Whiskey, like a beautiful woman, demands appreciation." He understood that savoring whiskey is not just about the taste, it's about the experience, the anticipation, the appreciation of its complexity before that first sip. But Murakami's connection with whiskey goes beyond mere appreciation. It's a source of solace. He once candidly confessed, quote, "I contented myself with whiskey for medicinal purposes." For him, whiskey served as a remedy, a way to numb the various aches and pains of life. It was a way to detach from his own suffering, if even just for a while. In the quiet, introspective moments of the night, Murakami would turn to whiskey. In the stillness of 2 or 3 in the morning, he'd rise from his bed, make his way to the kitchen, and pour himself a glass. With glass in hand, he'd gaze out at the darkened cemetery across the way and the distant headlights of passing cars. These moments, when night melds into dawn, were long and contemplative. In his own words, Murakami's relationship with whiskey was a way to navigate the complexities of life. He grappled with his own self-centeredness and the weight of the world, finding solace in the amber liquid that, for a brief moment, allowed him to escape and reflect. Haruki Murakami's love for whiskey not only adds depth to his literary persona, but also reminds us that, like a well-crafted novel, a good glass of whiskey has the power to transport us to different realms and provide moments of clarity and contemplation in the darkness of night. Number 8. William Faulkner. William Faulkner, the Mississippi-born and raised literary genius, left an indelible mark on American literature with his iconic works like The Sound and the Fury and As I Lay Dying. But what many may not know is that Faulkner had a profound appreciation for whiskey and believed it was an essential tool in his creative process. In his own words, Faulkner once shared, quote, "My own experience has been that the tools I need for my trade are paper, tobacco, food, and a little whiskey." He recognized that writing, like any craft, required its own set of tools, and among them, whiskey held a special place. Born in 1897, Faulkner's early literary endeavors were in poetry. However, it was his novels, often set in the American South and centered around his fictional Yaknakatapa County, that catapulted him to fame. Faulkner's pioneering narrative techniques and innovative style helped revolutionize the world of storytelling. Yet beyond his literary accomplishments, Faulkner was known for his somewhat aloof character. He had a fondness for whiskey, and some might say it was a source of inspiration and solace for him. He was no stranger to infidelity and had a reputation for occasionally shirking his work responsibilities. Faulkner's life was marked by periods of obscurity and anonymity, but his writing legacy endures. And in his own way, he left us with a piece of advice about whiskey. Quote, "There is no such thing as bad whiskey. Some whiskeys just happen to be better than others, but a man shouldn't fool with booze until he's 50. Then he's a damn fool if he doesn't." Number 7. George Bernard Shaw. In the world of literature and theater, few names shine as brightly as that of George Bernard Shaw. The Irish playwright, known for timeless classics like Pygmalion and Caesar and Cleopatra, was not only a prolific writer, but also a whiskey enthusiast who had a way with words both on and off the stage. Shaw once famously declared, quote, "Whiskey is liquid sunshine." His words resonate with all whiskey lovers, capturing the warmth and comfort that a fine dram can bring. It's no surprise that an Irishman with a knack for wit and wisdom would find such poetic beauty in whiskey. But Shaw's love for whiskey was just one facet of his dynamic personality. He was a passionate advocate for social issues, championing the rights of workers and advocating for equal rights for men and women. This fervor for justice and equality was seamlessly transferred to his love of whiskey. For him, perhaps, whiskey was a symbol of the simple pleasures in life, accessible to all and capable of brightening even the darkest days. As we raise a glass to George Bernard Shaw, we're reminded that whiskey, much like his plays, has the power to transcend time and touch our souls. It's a reminder that in the company of great literature and a fine dram, we can find our own liquid sunshine. No sunscreen required. Cheers to the legacy of an Irishman who knew the beauty of both words and whiskey. Number 6. Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter S. Thompson, the larger-than-life figure known for his groundbreaking novel Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, was a man of many vices and virtues. But one thing that remained a constant in his tumultuous life was his unwavering love for whiskey. Thompson once described himself with brutal honesty, saying, quote, "I am a lazy, drunken hillbilly with a heart full of hate who has found a way to live out where the real winds blow. To sleep late, have fun, get wild, drink whiskey, and drive fast on empty streets with nothing in mind except falling in love and not getting arrested." This unapologetic and rebellious spirit defined his approach to life and his relationship with whiskey. Few writers are as renowned for their intoxicated work as Hunter S. Thompson. While he certainly exposed the benefits of various substances, from acid to cocaine, he had a special affinity for whiskey. One of his favorite brands was Wild Turkey, and he occasionally required his interviewers to partake in a healthy dose of it before he would answer their questions. It was as if the spirit of Wild Turkey was an entry ticket to Thompson's world of whiskey-soaked wisdom. Thompson's life was a wild ride, and his general quotes on booze are legendary. He once declared, quote, "I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity to anyone, but they've always worked for me." His words reflect a philosophy that valued the unconventional and the liberating power of spirits. Quote, "Good people drink good beer," he mused, acknowledging that there's a time and place for all beverages. And for Thompson, those times often involved sleeping late, having fun, getting wild, and of course, drinking whiskey. He encouraged us to embrace life's chaos, to let the good times roll, and to find solace in the quiet darkness at the bottom of a bottle of Jim Beam after a job well done. Any way at all. Number 5. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner was one of the brightest stars in Hollywood. This Oscar-nominated actress, with her luminous beauty and feline grace, captivated audiences not only with her on-screen performances, but also with her love for a particular libation, whiskey. Ava Gardner's wish was simple and profound. Quote, "I wish to live to 150 years old, but the day I die, I wish it to be with a cigarette in one hand and a glass of whiskey in the other." It was a wish that spoke to her unapologetic love for life's pleasures, and whiskey held a special place in her heart. Despite her elegant appearance, Gardner was as bold and daring as the characters she portrayed on screen. She was known for her love of whiskey as much as for her beauty. In her roles, she often transformed into the femme fatale, a dangerous and alluring woman. What better accessory for such a character than a glass of whiskey in hand? Gardner's desire to go out with a dram in hand was a reflection of her passion for living life to the fullest. While she didn't quite make it to 150, there's no doubt that a decanter of the good stuff was never far from her reach. But Ava Gardner was more than just a whiskey enthusiast. She lived a life that was as tumultuous as it was glamorous. She loved drinking, staying up all night, indulging in her desires, reveling in jazz, and using her fair share of four-letter words. Her relationships, including one with the legendary Frank Sinatra, were often the stuff of headlines. Despite her undeniable talent as an actress, Gardner was unimpressed with the movie business, considered acting a silly and embarrassing torment that she tolerated only to fund her extravagant lifestyle. She was the prototype of a jet-setting hedonist, pursued by paparazzi and constantly making headlines for her spirited fighting, drinking, and staying up all night. Number 4. Sir Winston Churchill. When you think of world leaders, you might picture stern faces, stiff collars, and serious speeches. But then there's Sir Winston Churchill, the British bulldog of a prime minister who knew that whiskey was the key to a better life, both in the halls of power and on the battlefield. Churchill famously declared, quote, "When I was a young subaltern in the South African War, the water was not fit to drink. To make it palatable, we had to add whiskey. By diligent effort, I learned to like it." These words revealed Churchill's early introduction to the transformative power of whiskey, even in the direst of circumstances. Legend has it that Churchill's relationship with whiskey went far beyond a mere interest. It was an integral part of his daily routine. Each day, without fail, the Prime Minister would indulge in a glass of Johnnie Walker Red with a dash of water. It was a ritual that he held dear, a source of comfort amidst the chaos of wartime leadership. Churchill's penchant for whiskey was legendary, and not even the Americans could keep up with his drinking habits. It's said that President Roosevelt had to sleep for 10 hours a day for 3 days just to recover from trying to match Churchill's pace. The idea of Winston hours became synonymous with revelry and merriment. And it's no wonder that other world leaders like Stalin seemed out of place in the pictures they took with Churchill. They simply couldn't keep up. While Churchill was known to enjoy a wide range of alcoholic beverages, he started each day with the same ritual: whiskey and water. But this wasn't just any whiskey, it was Johnnie Walker Red. Despite his grandeur and leadership during World War II, Churchill chose the humblest bottle of Johnnie Walker, earning the concoction a nickname within his family, the Papa Cocktail. Number 3. Raymond Chandler. When you think of Raymond Chandler, you might envision smoky bars, dimly lit alleys, and the gritty world of detective fiction. And while the gimlet is often associated with Chandler's name, don't confuse him with his famous fictional detective, Philip Marlowe. Chandler's true love was whiskey, and he was an equal opportunity drinker. Chandler once proclaimed, quote, "There is no bad whiskey. There are only some whiskeys that aren't as good as others." These words reflect his appreciation for the amber nectar in all its forms, and he didn't discriminate when it came to enjoying a fine dram. In his iconic novel, The Long Goodbye, published in 1953, Chandler beautifully described his love for bars. He wrote, quote, "I like bars just after they open for the evening, when the air inside is still cool and clean and everything is shiny, and the barkeep is giving himself that last look in the mirror to see if his tie is straight and his hair is smooth. I like the neat bottles on the bar back and the lovely shining glasses and the anticipation. I like to watch the man mix the first one of the evening and put it down on a crisp mat and put the little folded napkin beside it. I like to taste it slowly. The first quiet drink of the evening in a quiet bar. That's wonderful." Number 2. Mark Twain. Mark Twain, the literary giant behind classics like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, wasn't just a master storyteller. He was also a dedicated lover of whiskey. Samuel Langhorne Clemens, Twain's real name, had an affinity for the amber elixir that was as legendary as his literary works. Twain once famously declared, quote, "Too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough." These words capture the essence of his deep affection for whiskey, portraying it as a treasure that no one could ever have too much of. Despite being celebrated for his tales of the Mississippi River, Twain's love for whiskey extended beyond his fictional adventures. He was known to be a huge fan of Scotch, a passion he discovered during a trip to England in 1873. From that point on, he regularly enjoyed a cocktail reminiscent of today's old-fashioned, featuring scotch and lemon juice. Later in life, he would indulge in whiskey and hot water while enjoying a leisurely smoke, a trifecta of his great loves. Mark Twain has rightfully earned the title of the father of American literature. He was not only a gifted writer, but also a bon vivant with a taste for the finer things in life, including Scotch whiskey. Twain's journey into the world of whiskey was somewhat unconventional. While crossing the Atlantic aboard the liner SS City of Chester, he was introduced to a drink he called a cocktail. This early version of the old-fashioned included Scotch whiskey and lemon juice. It marked the beginning of his enduring love affair with Scotch, which deepened during his stay in London, where he fulfilled numerous public speaking engagements. Number 1. Frank Sinatra. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the one and only Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra. The man who not only had the voice of an angel, but also had a profound love for whiskey, particularly Jack Daniels. It's a well-known fact that Sinatra had a deep affection for the iconic Old No. 7, so much so that he was even laid to rest with a bottle of it when he passed away in 1998. In a tribute fitting for a legend, Jack Daniels released a special bottle called Sinatra Select in honor of the late singer. What greater homage could there be to a man who once famously said, quote, "Alcohol may be man's worst enemy, but the Bible says, love your enemy." Sinatra wasn't just a musical icon, he was a larger-than-life personality known for his singing, dancing, acting, and riotous lifestyle that made headlines across the world. He lived life to the fullest, with drinking, gambling, and even associations with the mafia as part of his colorful resume. Sinatra's love for whiskey, especially Jack Daniels, was no secret. His affinity for Old No. 7 was so profound that the brand itself paid tribute to him with limited label releases like Sinatra Select and Sinatra Century. These bottles are more than just drinks. They are a testament to his enduring legacy and the enduring love affair between the crooner and his preferred whiskey. But there's more to Sinatra than just his music and his whiskey. He was one of the original members of the legendary Rat Pack, a group of entertainers known for their charisma and mischief. Sinatra partied harder than most, and he's credited with the famous quote, "Basically, I'm for anything that gets you through the night, be it prayer, tranquilizers, or a bottle of Jack Daniels." So let's raise a glass to the whiskey-soaked crooner Frank Sinatra, whose music and love for Jack Daniels continues to inspire us to enjoy life to the fullest. As he famously sang, "I did it my way," and that way included savoring every drop of his beloved whiskey. Cheers to Frank Sinatra, a true legend in every sense. Thank you for watching. If you found this countdown as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more intriguing stories. Until next time.